Good day, good day. We won. We won, Chad. That's right. Big fat W. Big fat, even though it was a margin we didn't expect. We still took the W. That's what matters. People are like, did he lose? No. You can't lose when you win. What do you mean? A win is a win by 1 point. Many games are decided by that. Right? All right, Chad. What's happening? Oh. I have transparency on. Fucking liquid drum and bass. Liquid drum and bass, baby. Good mix. All right. What's happening? All right, there we go.
Welcome to Democracy Now!
News.
Democracy.
It's time for the news. That's right. Hello.
Now.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Dr. Abdul El-Sayed has claimed victory in Michigan's closely watched Democratic Senate race over Congresswoman Haley Stevens. NBC has also called the race for him, but other outlets say it's too close to call. Mike Rogers ran unopposed on the Republican side and will face the Democratic nominee in November. This is Dr. El-Sayed speaking Tuesday night.
I look in front of me and I see all kinds of colors, all kinds of stories coming together around the idea that we can have nice things, we just can't do it alone. That to have them, we're going to need to reach across the divides they tell us we can't breach. Divides of race, of faith, of geography, of sexual orientation, gender identity, to build together what we want to hand off to our kids and our grandkids.
In Missouri, Representative Wesley Bell defeated former Representative Cori Bush for the second straight election. Pro-Israel outside groups spent heavily against Bush in both races. In Michigan's 7th District, Sunrise Movement co-founder William Lawrence won the Democratic primary and will face Republican incumbent Congressmember Tom Barrett in November. Michigan's 13th remains uncalled Democratic Congressmember Sri Thanadar and progressive challenger State Rep Donovan McKinney are locked in a tight race. In Washington's 9th District, incumbent Congressmember Adam Smith led with about 51% of the vote, and Republican Doug Bassler took second with roughly 24%. Both will advance to the general election. Anti-war independent Kshama Sawant trailed at about 13%. In Kansas, Trump-endorsed Senate President Ty Masterson won the 7-way GOP gubernatorial primary with about 42% of the vote, while Democratic State Senator Cindy Holscher won her party's nomination for the seat Governor Laura Kelly is vacating. The U.S. military has reportedly used up nearly 80% of its key missile interceptors during the war with Iran, as commanders warn stockpiles are dangerously low. This comes as U.S. and Qatari officials say progress is being made to restore a ceasefire and reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Meanwhile, in Iran, mourners gathered on Qashem Island Tuesday for the funeral of a family killed in U.S. strikes. The coffins of the victims, identified by Iranian media as Qaisar Jafari, his wife Sahra, and their 2-year-old son Sina, were carried through the streets before funeral prayers. Iran's Ministry of Health reported at least 3,468 people have been killed in U.S.-Israeli attacks on Iran as of June 10th. After the ceasefire ended and fighting resumed in July, Iran's health ministry said at least 50 people had been killed by U.S. strikes specifically between late June and July 18th, including 5 women and 2 children. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent.
Is that true?
Confirmed the U.S. and Iran are negotiating.
We may have a deal today or tomorrow to open the strait and move towards a more normalized position in this conflict.
The National Guard's continuing its deployment in Washington, D.C. through January 2029 at a cost of $1.4 billion, according to the Pentagon. The cost estimate was provided to Democratic Senator Elizabeth Warren, a member of the Senate Armed Services Committee, and lists a deployment of about 2,500 National Guard personnel. There are currently 4,600 service members stationed in Washington, D.C. North Carolina's Republican Congressman Chuck Edwards announced he's dropping his re-election bid after the House Ethics Committee recommended censure over sexual harassment allegations. The panel said Edwards, quote, engaged in persistent, unprofessional, and inappropriate conduct towards 2 young female staffers, unquote. This comes as GOP Congressman Max Miller of Ohio is under a House ethics investigation over domestic abuse allegations. At least 3 women have accused him of violence. Miller says he will not drop his re-election bid. He's the ex-son-in-law of Ohio Senator Bernie Moreno. In New Jersey, a 3rd immigrant has died after being detained at the Newark ICE jail known as Delaney Hall. That's according to New Jersey Congressmember Rob Menendez, who said the reported death took place in July and was not disclosed by ICE. Menendez shared this video on social media.
An individual that had just been brought there suffered what they believe was a seizure. We didn't hear about this because they sent him to University Hospital, so he was no longer in ICE custody. Why did they do that? Recently, ICE changed their rules, so they no longer report on deaths that happened 30 days after someone is released from ICE custody.
This comes as news broke of the death of Salvadoran father Edwin Lopez Conejo, who'd been detained at Delaney Hall since June. His family's demanding an independent investigation into his death, saying he was denied his medication and proper medical care
fascism, guys.
At the ICE jail.
Don't you dare call these people fascists. This is not fascism. Come on. What the fuck, dude? How dare they? How dare they? This is disgusting.
His family said he was 39 years old. Jean Wilson Brutus, a 41-year-old Haitian immigrant, died at Delaney Hall in December. At least 23 people have died in ICE custody this year alone. Delaney Hall is operated by the for-profit prison company Geo Group. We'll have more on this story later in the broadcast with New Jersey Congressmember Ana Lilia Mejia.
23 divided by 7. 1.27.
Italy will place all 27 of its major cities under Italy's highest heat alert Thursday as the country suffers its 4th heat wave this summer. In France, the Weather Office announced July shattered national records as the hottest month since 1900, when temperature data was first collected. In
3.2.
Poland, a deepening drought has pushed major rivers to record lows, while another heat wave is driving temperatures toward 40 degrees Celsius. That's about 104 degrees Fahrenheit in the south.
Guys, that's 3.5 people a month are dying in ice jails as of right now, on average, since we started the year. Not fascism, right?
A hydrologist at Poland's Institute of Meteorology and Water Management warns Poland likely faces its worst drought in years.
Huge problem because the low level of the rivers is coming is step of the next problems with agriculture, with factory, with infrastructure. We're not ready. The climate is changing very fast. Now in Poland, the climate is like 30 years ago in Budapest, like in Hungary. So we should be too ready and prepare us.
In Washington state, authorities have arrested a man on suspicion of arson in connection with one of the 3 blazes that have devastated the Spokane area. The arrest came as firefighting crews continue to battle the fires that have destroyed more than 700 homes and structures. Nearly 65,000 people have been evacuated from Spokane County, where the blazes have reportedly consumed more than 8,000 acres with 0% containment since they ignited Saturday. In total, CNN reports are over a dozen blazes burning in the Washington, Oregon area as the Pacific Northwest faces its worst fire season in more than 30 years due to climate change. We'll have more on this story later in the broadcast. The Justice Department subpoenaed Matthew Cole, a freelance reporter for the New York Times, demanding his testimony and more than 2 years of notes to identify his sources for a story last year about a botched 2019 SEAL Team 6 mission in North Korea. The article, which cited roughly 24 unnamed sources, described how U.S. Navy SEALs killed several unarmed North Koreans while trying to plant a listening device near the country's coast. The Trump administration failed to notify Congress about the operation. FBI agents showed up at Cole's home to deliver the grand jury subpoena earlier this year, which was issued by prosecutors in Virginia. Cole's lawyer, David O'Neill, said Cole, quote, will not be intimidated from continuing that important work. He'll defend press freedom and the First Amendment from this administration's brazen attacks on journalists, and he'll honor his commitment to his sources, unquote. A federal judge Tuesday granted the Justice Department's request to dismiss cases against Oath Keepers members who participated in the January 6th insurrection. The ruling by Judge Amit Mehta vacates the seditious conspiracy convictions of founder Stuart Rhodes and other members who are found guilty of plotting to block the transfer of power after Trump's 2020 election loss to President Biden. In his ruling, Mehta strongly disagreed with the DOJ's decision to drop the cases, but ultimately concluded that the government's prosecutors had the authority to do so, writing, quote, today's epilogue diminishes the gravity of that day, denigrates the work of the prosecutors and law enforcement officers who secured these convictions, and excuses criminal acts that caused a centuries-long pillar of our democracy, the peaceful transfer of presidential power, to buckle. The court cannot write a different ending, unquote. In Puerto Rico, protesters took to the streets of San Juan and other cities Tuesday, demanding the government take action on the island's ongoing water crisis. In recent months, residents have faced repeated water service interruptions and shortages. Some communities in the town of Loíza have been without water for more than 100 days. Activists and experts say the crisis has worsened due to years of mismanagement and inadequate maintenance of key water infrastructure compounded by drought. This is a community leader.
Water has no color. Water is a right. It is transparent because it belongs to all of us. It belongs to our communities, to all ideologies. It belongs to Puerto Rico, and we are going to demand having it. It is our right. Governor Jennifer, stop the abuse. Listen to the voice of the people. The people say enough. No more excuses. Look, I cannot take a bath. I cannot water my plants.
In India, far-right Prime Minister Narendra Modi's BJP party suffered a major local election loss in the state of Bihar.
Yes.
The seat had been held by the BJP for at least 30 years. It was lost to electoral strategist turned politician Prashant Kishore with the Jan Swaraj, or Good Governance Party. It's
probably going to die now.
The victory comes amidst weeks of youth-led street anti-government protests of the so-called cockroach movement that forced the resignation of India's education minister. Kishore said his win should be a wake-up call for Modi. In Ukraine, Russian missile and drone strikes on Kyiv and surrounding areas killed 17 people and wounded 44 others overnight.
Yeah,
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said the strikes mainly targeted warehouses belonging to civilian businesses, as well as infrastructure and a railway station. It follows Ukrainian attacks on a Black Sea resort earlier this week, as well as several strikes on warehouses belonging to Russia's online retailer. Jordan's convening an emergency meeting today of Arab and Islamic foreign ministers over what it calls an imminent threat of an Israeli takeover of the Al-Aqsa compound in Jerusalem. The warning follows escalating incursions by Jewish religious activists, including a July 23rd incident in which over 2,000 Israelis, led by far-right minister Itamar Ben-Gvir, prayed at the site in violation of the status quo, reserving worship there for Muslims. Speaking to The Guardian, Jordan's foreign minister, Ayman Safadi, said, quote, "We warn that tampering with the status quo could trigger a religious conflict that will reverberate beyond Palestine and Jordan into the whole Muslim world," he said. And United Nations human rights experts sent a letter Monday to New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani and New York Governor Kathy Hochul in support of efforts to end 24-hour workdays for home health aides. At City Hall, immigrant workers ended their second hunger strike in 4 months to demand the passage of the No More 24 Act. This is hunger striker Alin Lok.
Caregiving work is taken for granted as women's work. As women, we have long been undervalued, and as caregivers, we are devalued even more.
True.
Now the whole world is saying that the 24-hour workday in New York City is wrong.
And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman with Democracy Now!'s Anjali Kamat.
And welcome to our listeners and viewers across the country and around the world.
Thanks for watching Democracy Now! On YouTube. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to make sure you never miss a video. And for more of our audience-supported journalism, go to democracynow.org, where you can download our news app, sign up for our newsletter, subscribe.
Next.
Oh, did Pacman act like he didn't know about Destiny's allegations against him? Because, like you said, I had heard that he dropped out of an event because Destiny was in it and he didn't want to be in the event with Destiny.
Oh, really?
Yeah, during like the peak of one of the allegations against Destiny or whatever. But I didn't know that. So did he come out and say like, oh, I didn't know about, because that would be, Jesus Christ. That's like when he was like, what is it? APAC, IPAC, how do you pronounce it? I've never even heard of it. It's like, bro, you know, like, Jesus Christ, don't fucking, you're fronting, dog. Like, you're fronting.
Look out the door if you hear an ambulance. The Vanguard will be there, sir.
Let's get into the hot goss. Let's dive right into the deep end and talk a little bit more about Kyle Kulinski, Destiny, David Pacman, some of the main characters on the Vanguard over the last couple of weeks. And this is pretty interesting because you guys know that Kyle's kind of been on the warpath against David Pacman and Destiny, finally taking the gloves off, specifically as it relates to Pacman, who previously he had been a little bit more reluctant to criticize, and then also, you know, responding to some of Destiny. And that continued on last night's Kyle and Corin live
YouTube
stream.
hasn't banned me.
I was super excited to see this, and I thought this was a good timestamp to start with Zach, because Kyle directly addresses Destiny and whether or not he'll accept Destiny's challenge to debate.
Sick.
And also, by the way, huge shout out to Corin. You guys can find these full live streams over at the Corin's World YouTube channel. As you can see here, they do these live streams every week, and we always find some good nuggets in here to react to. But huge shout out to these guys for putting on the live show. And let's take a look at this first timestamp. Got pretty spicy, Zach.
Pisco Hutch, Destiny, etc., did a debate about whether you and Crystal are more in the Dem Party tent than Liz Cheney. Destiny did a rant about you being scared to debate. I'm not scared to debate him. I don't like him. I don't respect him. Right? Like, there's a big difference there. Like, I don't like you. I don't respect you. I think he's a drama monger. Like, it's very obvious.
Same.
Why does he always have some personal drama? And he treats his stream like it's some fucking trashy reality show from like 2005.
Yeah.
Like, that's
Always
not what
talking
I
about
do.
Hasan.
Bro.
Mentioned
What I
about
do is like,
Yeah, what you don't want to hear him litigate the divorce filings from his ex-wife or whatever.
His Discord kitten sued him, Gavin, because he leaked her nudes.
Yeah, yeah. So that's pretty funny from Kyle, and I totally agree with his justification for not accepting this debate. Right, it's the same justification that Zach and I have for not accepting the debate that Destiny has challenged us to attend.
Also, our no perverts policy.
That too.
Correct.
That too. But yeah, I mean,
No
I don't
perverts
respect
allowed.
him. It's not worth our time. I don't want to expose you guys to his idiocy without us, it's just
controlling the mute button.
Yeah, exactly. So I totally agree with Kyle there.
cover the news and cover politics and talk about it and give information and give my opinion. I'm not into this for fucking weird blood sport shit. I'm not a 14-year-old boy anymore.
Right.
So I don't like you.
Like
I don't
Destiny.
respect you. I think you're weird. I think you got a lot of like strange cases around you. I think it's bizarre that there's always some new thing with some new accusation against you every day. I find it weird that you have a hate boner for Hasan that literally never fucking goes away. You would think like that would have died
hate
down
boner.
eventually because you and Hasan
that's a
had
good
your
way to
breakup when
describe
you were
it.
friends. Like how long ago now? 6 years, 7 years, 8 years, something like
8
that. But no,
years
you
now?
still hold on to it. So
Jesus Christ.
I mean, that's why I wouldn't do it. Like it seems like
Right.
a waste of time, a waste of energy. And let's not pretend it's
Steven got a weird case. Why is he around? Certified lover boy, certified pedophile. Wah, 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 wah.
Yeah, so pretty satisfying again to hear Kyle really take the gloves off and just be like, "Get the fuck out of here, you weird fucking creep! I don't want to do this. I don't care enough about you. I don't respect you enough to have this dialogue." And Kyle will talk to people he disagrees with. He even had Hutch on the KKF at one point. Remember that? He had Hutch, I think, and Josiah too. But he entertained that fool. I'm like, all right, I think he's done enough.
Bro used to debate us when we had like 20,000 subscribers. He was like, "You guys are cool. Like, I'll talk to you about like whatever you want." Like, you know what I mean? It was friendly debating, but he was like, "I'll entertain your guys' pushback. I don't give a shit." Like, it's not like he's afraid of hearing somebody who disagrees with him.
Not even close. So shout out to Kyle and Corin. Let's hear a little bit more this time about David Pakman in specific. Zach, super excited to listen to this one with you.
Spencer, thanks for the
Face is
$10.
bleached
Destiny, only 51.49 AOC versus JD. What happened to Vote Blue no matter who? Pac-Man playing. He didn't know Destiny's scummy past when it's proven. David dropped an event with Destiny over reputational harm. Oh, did Pac-Man act like he didn't know about Destiny's allegations against him? Because, like you said, I had heard that he dropped out of an event because Destiny was in it and he didn't want to be in the event with Destiny.
Oh, really?
During like the peak of one of the allegations against Destiny or whatever. But I didn't know that. So did he come out and say like, "Oh, I didn't know about," because that would be, Jesus Christ. That's like when he was like, what is it? APAC, IPAC. How do you pronounce it? I've never even heard of it. It's like, bro, like Jesus Christ, don't fucking, you're fronting, dog. Like you're fronting. Yeah, the Destiny thing on.
Not only are you fronting, but it's so obvious. It's not even a good lie, right? Like a good lie is something that people who want to believe your lies can like convince themselves is plausible, right? But when you have an audience of people who are just clapping seals, who just want to have you be like, MAGA's bad and Democrats are good, which is what David Pakman has. He doesn't care. Corporate Democrats are good, MAGA bad. DSA is just as bad as MAGA. That's what he wants to hear. And as long as he reinforces that to people, right, that's all well and good. But the reality is when you start to break that illusion that you're an expert on politics because you have to lie in a way that reveals you're lying, right? Oh, you've never heard of APAC and you've been covering politics for 20 years in America?
Yeah.
And
where have you been,
yeah,
bro?
I'm sorry, but you've heard of it. You've heard of APAC. I've heard of APAC. I'd heard of APAC long before October 7th, right? We're not that sharp. We just cover politics for a living, and everybody who covers politics for a living has heard of APAC.
Yeah.
And just in case
They
anyone
know how to
hasn't
pronounce
seen the
it,
clip
and they've
in
heard
question,
someone talk
it's
about
one
it.
of the most glorious moments that we've ever covered, that we've ever reacted to. And it's one of the most obvious and shameless lies that I've ever heard from one of these commentators. So let's just relive that quick clip real quick before we get back to Kyle and Corin.
Some creators in the first 48 hours took the Wired story and expanded it with even more outrageous claims, suggesting that it's APAC or IPAC. I don't even know how it's pronounced. APAC. IPAC that is funding this show or other.
And this is, again, in response to the article in Wired about Chorus, about how David Pakman, in addition to his colleagues, his liberal colleagues, are quite literally the recipient of a dark money slush fund. However, no one was accusing him necessarily, at least in that article, of taking AIPAC money. He's just bringing it up. He's just like, AIPAC, IPAC, are you taking money from AIPAC, IPAC, David Pakman? It seems kind of like you're guilty or something. It seems kind of like you're bringing this up because you're afraid of being exposed. So you got to get ahead of it. Like, no one was even talking about AIPAC. You volunteered this random speech about how you don't even know what it is. Don't look into that. Don't look into that. Seems a little bit suspicious. I wouldn't actually make any allegations or claims about the money he receives, but we know he is a recipient of dark money, Democratic dark money, so I wouldn't put it past him.
Oh, God. And he has no respect for his audience at all, you guys. If you have ever watched David Pakman, or if you still do, you have to understand in your heart, he has no respect for you. He thinks you are dumber than fucking rocks. He thinks you are stupid as hell. He thinks he can come out here and tell you a bold ass fucking lie like that. Here's another one he told in the same live stream, guys. I am thinking about suing Taylor Lorenz and Wired and Condé Nast for publishing lies about me, right? They all said, oh, we should litigate this. This is defamation. And then what did they do? Fuck all, because they wanted to come out here and lie to you because the people who watch them, they think are fucking dumb. They have no respect for you. If you watch their show, they think you're a mark. They think you're a fucking cog in a machine that they can continue to use to crank dollar bills out of you.
Yup, 100%. Again, just one of the probably top 5, if not top 3, most embarrassing, just shameless lies we've ever reacted to from somebody who purports to be on the left. Just crazy how little he respects his audience in this moment here. Again, responding to totally valid reporting in a very Trumpian way by pretending to be a victim. He intimidated the reporter, at least attempted to intimidate the reporter, and is now obfuscating. And again, playing the victim card, somehow acting like the fact that he's Jewish is why this reporting has happened and why people are tying him to these positions or whatever. It's totally embarrassing. But either way, let's get back to this Kyle Koren live stream. We got one more second from this timestamp, and then one more for you, Zach. Super excited to get your reaction to that.
Jesus Christ, don't fucking, you're fronting, dog. Like, you're fronting. And yeah, the Destiny thing on that clip was crazy. Like, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It was like, it's kind of like a coin flip, whether or not it's AOC or fucking JD Vance. He sounds like Bill Maher. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. Destiny does sound like Bill Maher, as I mentioned. There's a new party. We got the DSA rising. There's another faction of the Democratic Party rising. It's all the losers and haters and apparently quitters. We got Bill Maher, Destiny, John Fetterman. I might be forgetting James Carville. They can all just fuck off forever and leave us the hell alone and leave the Democratic Party as they've been threatening to. It's like, all right, don't threaten me with a good time. Get the fuck out. Yeah. Get the fuck out. And again, it's specifically crazy that Destiny had that clip of him talking about how, it's a coin flip. If it's AOC, the Democrats nominate AOC, it's a coin flip between her and JD Vance as far as who he's going to support. Are you fucking kidding me? For the past 4 years, he's been beating Kyle over the head with this lie that Kyle didn't support Kamala Harris in 2024. And then somehow his reluctance to support the Democrats in the last election led to Trump winning, even though, again, Kyle Kalinske specifically went hard in the fucking paint for Kamala Harris. I think he went harder for Kamala than just about any of his colleagues. But he's consistently been smeared by Destiny as someone whose lack of an endorsement for Kamala negatively affected Kamala and ultimately even led to Trump winning, only for Destiny to turn around years before the election even starts, years before the nominee is even nominated, and to say, I might actually support the Republican. I might support JD Vance over the Democratic nominee if it's AOC.
Oh, yeah. And that's exactly why the Bill Maher comparison is so apt, by the way, because you have Bill Maher who, he pretended like he was going to be the staunch anti-Trump foe. And then as soon as he gets invited to Mar-a-Lago, he's like, oh, actually, Donald Trump was really nice to me. I think I could actually get down with him. The left was too mean to me. These radical lefties were too mean to me. You know what I'm saying, right? It was the exact same falling out. It was the reverse polarization. That's a really good pull from Kyle.
Yep, 100%. We got one more, Zach. And I think you're going to really like this one specifically because the Vanguard gets brought up.
Ooh.
So let's take a listen.
It's through 50 clams to Silly and Billy during the Kyle versus Pakman coverage, then an extra 20 to tell them no need to poll chat, ask who they let watch their kids. Destiny or Hasan, nothing but love for you guys. Appreciate you, Pentax and C, man. And Vanguard is freaking it over there too, brother. They're on top of every single left-wing beef. Here's the thing. I don't even so
You hear that? Vanguard out there freaking it on top of every single left-wing beef rather.
I think we're on top of every left-wing beat too. I think Kyle would let us claim that.
Yup. So that's cool to hear. Shout out to Kyle for digging the content if he watches. Although he's about to talk about how he doesn't always watch, so that'll be interesting to hear too.
You guys appreciate you, Pentaxancy, man. And Vanguard is freaking it over there too, brother. They're on top of every single left-wing beef. Here's the thing. I don't even so like I have a general rule. If there's some shit about me that there's even like a 5% chance it might be negative, I just won't watch it. So I'm like, I don't need that in my life. Like if somebody's dumping on me, whatever. But like I learn every other day from the Vanguard that like, oh, this person took a shot at me. Oh, that person took a shot at me. I don't even listen to it, but I'm just like, oh, I guess they're taking shots at me. And I only know that because the Vanguard is on top of every single beat. It's kind of hilarious.
Vanguard does it. Is Silly and Billy the Vanguard? Like,
yeah, so that's and that comes from Jank dismissively was like Silly and Billy over there coming after us, and they started making shirts that said Silly and Billy on it.
Oh, really?
Shout out to Kyle. That's a deep lore. Kyle, he might not watch every Vanguard video because some of them are about people saying mean things and whatever. But
we always hold it down for you, Kyle. Our criticism is always usually mild if we disagree.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we disagree with Kyle sometimes. We disagreed with him, I think, a week or two ago on something. I don't even fucking remember. But yeah, we're always chill. It's never that crazy. But either way, I thought that was pretty funny that he remembers that. Jake calling us Silly and Billy. Not everyone knows why that's our nicknames. Silly and Billy.
It's transcended. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, I know, right? It's just become such a meme at this point that some people don't even really know where it comes from. But yeah, that was from Cenk Uygur. He called us that. One of the few times he actually addressed our show by name, or Anna addressed our show by name. She was like, "There's this show. It's called The Vanguard," or whatever. And then Cenk, he didn't want to say our name, so he went with Silly and Billy. That was a big
Silly
mistake.
and Billy.
Because, we've sold quite a few Silly and Billy t-shirts. You guys can hit up the merch store. Links in the description below if you want to grab one. But either way, pretty funny stuff. Great to hear the Vanguard name dropped on Kyle and Corin. And I'm also going to throw the link to that full live stream in the chat so you guys can check it out. Subscribe to Corin's show.
Chat.
Watch the clips that he posts and the live streams that him and Kyle do because it's really great content. And we're big fans of both these guys.
Oh yeah, dude. Kyle has been, and Corin too. Dude, we had Corin on the show years ago. What, 4 years ago, probably? I mean, we've known Corin now. We've been friends of the show with Corin for a while. And same with Kyle. Kyle, he came on our show when like I mentioned earlier, when we were like peanut size. We were a very, very small broadcast. So Kyle's always been chill with us. He's always been good at, uplifting these, up and coming broadcasters. That was before Gavin and I were really housebroken too. We were some scrappy motherfuckers back then. Kyle was like, nah, you guys are chill. I'll come on and fucking bullshit with you guys. They invited us on Crystal Kyle and Friends back when we were a super small channel. So I always have a special place in my heart for those guys.
Oh yeah. I mean, as you guys know, Kyle Kalinske, probably single biggest inspiration to me as a political.
Okay. Bye, Silly and Billy. There's that. There we go. Okay, socialism.
Hello, everybody. I'm Martha McCallum, along with Kayleigh McEnany, Leslie Marshall, Jesse Waters, and Greg Gutfeld. It's 5 o'clock in New York, and this is The Five. Well. Shot across the bow for the Democratic establishment. Progressive Abdul Al-Sayed squeaked out a narrow victory, about 14,000 votes, defeating stick it to him moderate Haley Stevens in the Michigan Senate primary that has exposed some deep divisions within the Democrat Party. Al-Sayed extending an olive branch today. He said he spoke with Stevens. He said she's going to support him. They're going to be unified. And he shouted out the socialist OG Bernie Sanders and said he's the man who made it all possible. Watch.
I know that it was a bitter end to this very long primary, but I also know that Haley brings the best of herself to her work. She is one of the most committed public servants that you'll ever meet. She loves democracy like I love democracy. I gotta give a special thank you to my first endorsers. Bernie Sanders, the OG, who came in on day one, put his entire shoulder in the work. They think that you want to use my whole name against me. Mike, listen, man, if you can't say the name, it's Abdurrahman, keep the name out your damn mouth.
But it wasn't working. It wasn't the working class voters that El Sayed claims to represent who pushed him to victory. Politico reports that the radical candidate performed best among wealthy, highly educated white voters primarily, while moderate Democrats, Stevens picked up the black vote, Detroit, Flint, lower income areas, and less educated areas. So think about what that means for the future. And President Trump weighed in on the race, calling El Sayed, quote, a communist loser, he said, warning it's a slippery slope for the country to start electing socialist candidates.
I don't know what that means.
I think it's crazy because they're going to ruin our country. They want to, I don't know if they want to. I think either they're very naive or they actually want to ruin the country. No matter where you look, go back 1,000 years with different names. Anybody doing what they're doing and what they're espousing, everything turns out to ashes and junk and filth.
All right, Kayleigh, let's start with you. You could feel
junk,
him
and
in this statement that he made today, kind of trying to pull to the middle here because he knows he's got to win over some of those voters who voted for Haley Stevens, who didn't want him in this primary.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And he did a pretty savvy job at that. El Sayed is, to me, one of the most dangerous left-wing candidates out there. Why? Because he rejects the label of socialism while operating under the veneer of socialism. You look at his policies: Medicare for all, abolish ICE, Supreme Court reform, billionaire tax, arms embargo on Israel. These are all policies of the DSA. But yet he says, I reject the DSA on one hand. But then on the other hand, he's at 6 DSA events. He headlined a fundraiser for the DSA. He has a litany of socialist policies, but he's dangerous because he rejects it in name. So voters have to study closely. But Democrats, socialism is on the march. You see this with El Sayed. You see it in D.C. They're about to have a socialist mayor. They already have one in Seattle with Katie Wilson. We have one here in New York City with Zoran Mamdani. And you look across the party and these left-wing socialists are winning. Here's the problem they have, and you pointed to it in this introduction. There's a divide, a real divide among Democratic voters. The working class does not support the socialists. The college-educated do. There's a huge divide. Another divide, you have white liberals who support the socialists, but black voters, voters of colors in these primaries do not. Politico said it succinctly. It was a break between two unsettled factions of the Democratic Party, black voters and the left. So that's where we stand. Can you unite these two factions? Possibly. Zoran Mamdani did it, but I'm not sure that's going to work statewide in Michigan. Final takeaway, and to me, the biggest takeaway of the night, Jesse, you have one of the greatest heads of hair in television, but we lost one of the greatest heads of hair in Congress, Sri Thanadar. He's gone, and that is a tragedy.
Oh, my God.
So, Leslie.
Greg says I have fake hair. Look at that.
Leslie, how does the Democratic Party address this when you have working voters, working class voters, who the people who say they're all about the worker won't vote for?
Well, first of all, now you're going to have him up against a Republican, a pro-Trump Republican, a Republican who is not originally from Michigan like El Sayed is. And, you know, will some people stay home and not like him, maybe even just because he's Muslim? Really? But there are going to be people that are going to come out and they're going to vote for him because I'm hoping, as we're already seeing, that the Democrats are going to band together because to them it's for the greater good to have a Democrat in power, whether they're the more liberal, progressive faction, even a DS candidate, than to have their moderate candidate that they wanted. I'm a moderate Democrat, but I certainly want a Democrat more than I do a Republican, more than I do a pro-Trump Republican. You know, some people we're not talking about today that also won. Everybody thinks that, and we're talking about, and it makes the news cycle when we have the far left of the left win. But we don't talk about Adam Hamilton in Kansas, who talks about working on both sides. Katie Hobbs is going to pick a Republican as lieutenant governor. Eugene Vidman is certainly not a socialist. How about Eleanor Lunia, who is a Jewish candidate who won, who is pro-Israel and pro-AIPAC, and then Fred Wellman, who is also a moderate. Those are just a few. They all won yesterday, too. We're not talking about them. The reason is the majority of Democrats are moderates. Do we see more people, especially among the youth, not just the white college educated, especially among the youth? Do we see these younger people saying, yes, I like what I'm hearing? And what they're hearing, the message that they're hearing, you touched upon some of it, Kayleigh. What did Syed say? I want to make healthcare, groceries, gas more affordable. I think most Americans want that. I don't want data centers in the town. Most Americans don't want that. I want to have less money, if not any money in politics. I want to tax the rich. I want to end the war in Iran. I want to have money spent here on Americans,
Yeah, what's wrong with
not
that?
in other countries, including the country his parents are from, Egypt.
And he can't be sad about the Ayatollah being gone because that would sadden his voters.
Yeah.
Forgot that one.
He said you can't say anything about it because some people are really sad that the Ayatollah died in Dearborn.
But we saw that in Iran. In Iran, we saw that.
I mean-
and certainly there.
And with El Sayed's voters.
I live in Los Angeles, which is called Tehrangeles. I saw people marching for and against what we're doing.
Well, okay, because the
Tehrangeles?
Iranians that I know in New York
What?
would have danced on his grave because he slaughtered tens of thousands of people in the street. And for some reason, this individual has a hard time saying that it's a good thing that he's no longer on this earth. Jesse, Mike Rogers gave us a little bit of a window into where he's going to go with this. He said, I spent years hunting terrorists and bringing Osama bin Laden to justice. Never in a million years did I think I would be running against someone who believes America deserved 9/11. And that was a quote from Hassan Piker, who al-Sayed likes to hang out with quite a bit. He was with him right before the election.
Yeah, but you got to respect that
Wow.
bull because he beat the machine. Big Gretsch, Pelosi, Schumer, he slaughtered them. Jewish super PAC,
right.
30 mil, couldn't do it. And so say what you want about him. This guy is a force that Mike Rogers
True.
is going to have to deal with. Mike Rogers was born and raised in Michigan, by the way. I don't know if you knew that, but that's a fact.
No.
Now the Democrat establishment has lost total control. From Michigan to Maine to New York, the base is now calling the shots.
It's
And
true.
it was a very simple message. And you are right. All I hear from this guy, Medicare for all, end the war, abolish ICE, get money out of politics, especially Jewish money. And he was very crafty distancing himself from the crazy communists. Did it just enough to
He
be
didn't
able to
say
pull it
Jewish
off. And he's
money.
always doing hits constantly on my feed, on TV. So that's something you're going to have to deal with. He's still lost half Democrat primary voters, right? And he's got ethnic problems. He's got class issues.
Ethnic
And
problems.
he's a Muslim in Michigan, and that will be a factor. This is a 75% white state. It's a Big Ten state.
Fucking racist.
He's got to connect there. If he can't connect, he's toast. The Rogers guy isn't 100% MAGA. You know, he's Army, former FBI special agent, member of Congress. I think he matches up great against Abdul. So there's a great chance Republicans pick up this seat and pick up the main seat. And if that happens, it's not going to be John Fetterman's head on a stake. It's going to be Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, he said he basically wanted Fetterman's head on a pike. He said, ideally, you put one ogre on a pike and then everyone else gets the message. And all of a sudden, it starts to sound a lot different out there.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now
Why
on
do they
Fox
assume the
1.
ogre is Fetterman? That's funny. Oh my God.
This is a big victory. A couple of things just to keep in mind.
W,
we
folks.
don't know yet. We
Big
probably will, but we don't know yet how many Republicans voted in this. It's an open primary. Anybody could have voted in there. I don't think there's substantial numbers of Republicans who voted, but it wouldn't surprise me if there was some. It's a tight race. Rural areas went with Stevens. Concentrated areas where there are black voters, particularly older black voters, went with Stevens as well. There's going to be a challenge for El Sayed, obviously, in running against Rogers. I think he has a better shot than Haley Stevens would have had because she didn't seem to motivate anybody without huge gobs of money. I mean, really, you're talking almost 10 to 1. He spent $1 on every vote. She spent $10 on every vote is a way to look at it. It's actually, the numbers are more inflated than that, obviously.
And she had all the establishment endorsements, too.
Right. I mean, we're going to see... And also,
This is what I was
would also
talking about.
imagine that part
Primary
of Haley
every
Stevens'
single one of
vote
them.
was a function of we don't think El Sayed can win. And those people now move from pundits back into the I'm just voting for the person I want to win in this race. But it's going to be an all hands on deck moment in Michigan in that general because the implications of Abdul al-Sayed winning are huge for the progressive movement. There's really no other way to put argue that. And, it's not hard to imagine the Senate caucus we could have, whether the Democrats take the Senate or not.
Yeah.
But folks like Troy Jackson, folks like Abdul Al-Sayed, Tallarico, who's not going to be as progressive as we want on a whole host of issues, undoubtedly. Dan Osborne, the same. But they're going to be able, they're going to create a voting bloc. But we'll see. Here is Steve Kornacki, and we were leaning heavily on Kornacki last night. We did miss the part where he poured water all over his computer, which I saw in retrospect, which was sort of funny. But here he is calling the race. I don't know what time this was last night. Do we know exactly? It was late.
This is an NBC News special report. I'm Steve Kornacki. American voters in 5 states hit the polls on Tuesday, and I've got some major results to share with you, starting in the state of Michigan, where Abdul El-Sayed has won the Democratic primary for the United States Senate. He defeats Congresswoman Haley Stevens. This was a very close race here. You can see there are still a scattering of votes to be counted, but El-Sayed currently leading Stevens by 2 points.
There you go. That was the call. And then Mallory McMurrow came out with an endorsement. This is number 2. I mean, she came out with this before he actually gave his speech.
She might have had it drafted for both, depending on which.
There is absolutely no doubt in my mind, but she was very, very...
welcome aboard.
Yep. And... congratulations to Abdul El-Sayed on winning the Michigan Democratic primary to be our nominee. Abdul has my full endorsement and support. This is a brutal primary. Believe me, I know. And Trump, that was her parenthetical. And Trump and Mike Rogers are counting on us staying divided. Let's prove them wrong by beating Mike Rogers and taking our country back.
Let's do it.
It's good to see. I don't know what I haven't heard from Haley Stevens, although she did call to concede. Here is Abdul Al-Sayed this morning giving a victory speech. And we should say that McMurrow introduced him.
Yeah, and she's standing behind him here.
And no sign as to where Hassan Piker is. But I'm going to wait to condemn her for being on stage with Piker. I'm going to wait for that. I joke. Look, now's the time for unity. Here is
let's all get along.
Mike's a guy who spent 14 years in Congress with one goal: to figure out how to cash out the day he left. And guess what he did? As soon as he left Congress, after having taken corporate check after corporate check after corporate check, to empower the corporations to pick your pockets, he went and he cashed out. Not in Michigan. No, winters are too cold for him. He's got thin skin after all. He went to Florida. So, Mike, if you want to be a Florida man, go be a Florida man. If you want to golf in Florida, go golf in Florida. But I promise you in November, we are going to send you back to Florida. Mike Rogers is the guy who wants to put a data center in your backyard so he can make himself feel a little bit more manly by making an AI video. Mike Rogers is the guy who has never shied away from a DTE check so he could turn his face in the direction of Florida. Mike Rogers is a guy who will do anything Blue Cross Blue Shield wants him to do, including raise your rates. Mike Rogers is a guy who introduced legislation to increase the flow of opioids. He did that while I was in high school. Mike Rogers is a guy whose politics and vision and perspective are old. Mike Rogers is a guy who has never shied away from a corporation he could do a favor for. Mike Rogers is a guy who, believe it or not, went back to Florida so he could lick every single boot Donald Trump owns to beg for his endorsement. I'm so sorry. If you want a senator who's going to lick some boots, fine, go vote for Mike Rogers. But if you want a senator who's going to stand up to Donald Trump, then you've got your option right here.
All right. I don't even get the sense that speech was written.
It ends with him shoving Mike Rogers into a locker.
Giving him a wedgie.
What's a DTE check, by the way? Is that something I'm supposed to know?
I don't know what that is. Here is, let's play this clip. This is number 4. This is
Energy Company, DTE.
Is this a different victory speech? This one, I think, same one in Detroit. And this is a separate part of it.
I want to speak specifically to an issue that has been focused on in this race. To my Jewish American sisters and brothers, one of the most indelible memories of this campaign will have been the opportunity to break bread with you at Seder, to worship with you at Shul, to be embraced by you. And listening to sisters and brothers who said, you know, I want to join this movement because AIPAC doesn't speak for me. Because I understand that self-determination for one people does not require the quenching of self-determination for another people. That unless all of us are free, none of us are free. I want to tell you the great gift that you've given me.
It's true.
And to all of my sisters and brothers of the Jewish faith, or any faith at all, or no faith at all, I want you to know that my commitment to your safety, my commitment to Jewish safety, is the same commitment that I have to the safety of my own daughters. Because if there is one question of a political philosophy that ought to animate us all, is what would we build, what would we do if we treated all of our kids like they were all of our kids?
Good stuff there. And you know, I would love to see the data of really how many people we're talking about who had those concerns that needed to be ameliorated. I mean, there has been a ongoing campaign to paint him as anti-Semitic by those people who want continued support of Israel with our tax dollars, and our basically being accomplices in the genocide that continues to be ongoing.
Now they're going hard
in
on
Gaza.
Islamophobia.
I don't know. We don't have hard numbers of how many people voted against El Sayed because they had heard, secondhand that he's anti-Semitic, or assumed, or just straight on Islamophobia. But comments and constructions like that are helpful for people to reach those people. But again, we don't know how many Republicans voted in that election. I don't think it was a huge amount, but we'll start to see those numbers, and we'll see how much Haley Stevens is going to be supportive of the Democratic nominee. I would think a decent amount. She still wants to have a career in Democratic politics. And we should also just note an absolute disaster if you are someone looking to Chuck Schumer and Kristen Gillibrand to lead the party.
Yeah.
Because either A, they're incompetent, or B, they also have absolutely no idea where the Democratic Party is. Right. I mean, both things can be true, but your perspective may vary depending on where you are at politically. If I was one of these, Democratic establishment types, I'd be very concerned that we have the two most incompetent people in charge of finding candidates. I don't know who else, who else was on the bench in Michigan for the establishment, but it must have been pretty thin. Pretty thin. And I wonder if there aren't like some AIPAC and crypto and AI billionaires who are just kicking themselves today. Like, maybe if we just dumped another $30 million into that race.
It would have been worth it.
I think another $30 million would have maybe pushed her over the edge. $90 million. 1/10 what is spent in the past couple of presidential campaigns.
Yeah.
We need to raise taxes.
Indeed.
Yeah. That's insane.
Also, let's turn. We don't have a Donovan McKinney speech because I think it was just called this morning. But that's big news. That is a guaranteed another DSAer in the House.
He's not a DSA.
Yeah, he just posted his first victory tweet 11 minutes ago. So, but very excited. We can put this up here, I suppose. Let's see.
Here's that tweet. Detroit, he writes, I'm honored beyond measure to be your Democratic nominee to represent our mighty 13th in Congress. Taking back our seat, taking back our power has always been the core of our movement. I am so excited for all our community will accomplish together. Thank you, Michigan 13th.
This is a big W.
It's exciting.
That was a long shot race. And lastly, Will Lawrence, one of the founders of the Sunrise movement. Sorry. Speaking of
Sunset movement was Joe Biden.
Exactly. I was going to say. I actually have my Sunset Movement card.
Sam's a Sunset Movement partner.
Yeah. Here's Will Lawrence in is this East Lansing?
Yeah.
And
this is the truth.
Good.
Everybody here in the 7th District, regardless of your political persuasion, we share so much more in common. We share so much more in common, and that's what separates us. We share so much more in common than these billionaires in Silicon Valley and Wall Street and these insiders in D.C. We're going to find that common ground. We're going to build on it. We're going to build on it. And I tell you that on data centers, on war, on housing and healthcare, and on elite accountability, we are going to bring people together into a new way of politics beyond these old divides.
Exciting wins there. Again, in Missouri, Cori Bush lost. She did not have much by way of fundraising. Wesley Bell had millions more than she did. And Hartzell Gray lost in the 4th district, but he came close. And he also, I think, was overlooked, and I think he was considered a long shot. But had there been resources there this time around, we could have seen a different outcome. I suspect there'll be more resources next time.
Well, because he got redistricted into a less favorable district, and we had him on Left Reckoning shortly after that, and he's like, I still think we have a chance. And he was right. They had a chance.
Yep.
And good effort, and hope to see him again.
And for Will Lawrence's chances, he's facing a Republican incumbent who squeaked out one election so far, and that was to replace Alyssa Slotkin. So he's only a one-term incumbent who barely eked out in 2024.
And speaking of losers last night,
yeah.
It's not just Chuck Schumer and Kristen Gillibrand who took it on the chin last night. Alyssa Slotkin, I think, had supported against Lawrence, was it? I got to check my notes here. But her preferred candidate, and I think it was in that Lawrence race, came in 3rd. The one that she endorsed.
Great.
Now, she did her endorsement on...
Endorsed Matt Masden.
Yeah. And that was in the Lawrence race, right?
Yep.
Now, to be fair, she did her endorsement on with invisible ink that she got from the CIA.
The guy was a Navy SEAL, too,
It was
that she endorsed.
Yeah, it was one of those dead drop endorsements. And if somebody didn't actually look in the underneath the mailbox,
you have to squeeze lemon juice on it and then gently put a flame below it, and it will reveal the endorsement.
Secrets of the deep state Democrats.
Exactly. So that's good news. There's going to be a lot. There's a lot of work, and it also, I think, like, look, next week is Minnesota, and you should ignore polling.
Yep.
If we have a lesson from this, it is ignore polling. Particularly, look, it's very difficult to get quality polling from a primary. It's just nobody wants to spend the money on it and get a quality polling, and it's very difficult to predict. Hey folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours.
Because not as many people show up. Every single
I'll read
stream is
out
a win.
loud.
You're right. You're right, Chatter. You're right.
I just now in the last couple of weeks have gotten into Rogan.
Well, I heard the Bernie one.
I've never really gotten into Rogan.
never really got into
The
it.
Bernie
It's
one
like-
did numbers. I watched that one.
Yeah.
Well, it's so easy to watch YouTube on my TV, which I had never done until recently. Because I'm not going to sit at my
And if
fucking
you're working
computer.
folding shirts, you got Rogan for hours and hours and hours.
I mean, I don't need to. Yeah, I mean, like I can't imagine sitting at my computer and focusing on Joe Rogan talking.
No, that's background.
Because like I feel like most Rogans, he's like, so what's up? What's your deal? And he's like, well, I run a tech startup that uses satellites to measure black people's skulls. Yeah, I was like, that's interesting. That's interesting. Did you know the black people actually have an extra chemical in their brain that's released when they die?
Oh my god! I listen to Kill Tony sometimes.
That's like,
you guys like that
that's half the
podcast?
guests on Rogan.
I've never heard that one.
Kill Tony?
No, I haven't. That's like mostly stand up though, isn't it?
Like it's like
They make fun of open
they bring on
micers.
guests and they make fun of open micers. It's where I get most of my talent.
From what I've seen,
$2,000 open.
From what
micers
I've seen of all those guys, are all funny.
Yeah, no,
The guys
on Kill Tony.
Well,
Well,
I mean,
Tony.
I've seen Hinchcliffe at shows, and he's always been funny.
Yeah.
And Jeremiah's funny.
No, he's not.
But I've never.
I went and
watched
seen him
or
at the
listened
casino, and we hung out and smoked a little after. But I just mentioned it because he's like tight with Joe Rogan. Like, don't they all listen to each other's podcasts or like promote each other's podcasts?
They don't listen.
I don't think they listen
Yeah, Joe Rogan
doesn't
Joe
listen to
Rogan-
like every.
Joe Rogan's like, listen, Bernie, I hate to wrap this up, but I got to get home and listen to Kill Tony.
No, I don't, that wasn't one of the names we tossed out.
I think that's a good name for it.
Hey, it's me, fucking Joey Coco the Gorilla. I love you. I love you. Robin Williams.
I'm hanging out with Robin Williams.
I'm fucking hanging out with Robin Williams. Yeah, no, one time me and Robin Williams, we were touching each other's faces and talk about how we were in love with each other. And we were doing fucking
we were selling heroin.
back in fucking Brooklyn in the old days. Everybody knew sign language.
Yeah, we tell
Back
stories
then-
about the old days.
But it's because see, back then people don't understand. Brooklyn was fucking overgrown. There was still a deciduous forest back in those days. There was still plenty of there was undergrowth, and the canopy hadn't been destroyed. So there's still a home for guys like us, deaf gorillas,
Old school
Apes.
deaf gorillas.
old school deaf gorillas that were friends with
Yeah.
Robin Williams.
Respect to
You guys are
Rogan.
fucked up.
Yeah, we're fucked
Shit
up
is
guys.
dark, man.
We are fucked up guys.
I don't think I've ever listened to a full thing of Rogan.
Me
It's
neither.
5 hours long. I listened to that guy Andrew Yang that's running for president on
Yeah.
Rogan. That's been his big public.
How old is this?
He's a good guy.
Really good guy,
Yeah.
Bobby Lee.
He's helped a lot of people.
Absolute killer.
Absolute.
Just absolute monster. Retard.
Kill. You
Okay, boys.
Welcome back, everyone, to another reaction video. Well, today we're diving back into some American Civil War, specifically a video that has been requested ever since it came out, and we're going to dive into it today. This is Matt Walsh and what schools don't teach about the Civil War. Now, my last video reacting to Matt Walsh concerning history did not go particularly well in terms of how I felt about it. I felt like it was being very misleading and had quite an agenda. I'm hoping this one will be less so, but I'm not optimistic, especially because I have something that allows me to see thumbnail changes over time, and I can see that one of the thumbnails that was originally used for this video had the Army of Northern Virginia's battle flag, which people often refer to the Confederate flag. The Confederate flag, if you don't know, is actually the Army of Tennessee's battle flag. The square version of that flag is the Army of Northern Virginia, and that was on the original thumbnail. So having a Confederate flag as your thumbnail doesn't make me optimistic that you're going to be unbiased in your view on the American Civil War. But I will withhold judgment until we dive into this one. So I'll put the link in the description. This is an 1 hour and 7-minute original video. And you know me, I love to talk about the Civil War, and we're probably going to have a lot to say. So I expect this will be at least 2, maybe even 3 parts to do all of this. So don't expect this to go quickly. With that in mind, I do want to give a shout out and a thank you to James Glazebrook, who signed up as a patron last month. I really appreciate it, James. Thank you so much. Let's get into this one.
On the night of January 2nd, 1864, Confederate General Patrick Cleburne was worried. He warned his fellow Southerners that surrender to the North, quote, means that the history of this heroic struggle will be written by the enemy, that our youth will be trained by Northern school teachers, will learn from Northern school books, their version of the war, will be impressed by all the influences of history and education to regard our gallant dead as traitors, our maimed veterans as fit subjects for derision. Cleburne.
Now, understand that Patrick Cleburne was Irish-born. He settled in Arkansas when he came to the United States, had been here for maybe a decade or so, was anti-slavery, and had actually proposed that the South emancipate their enslaved men in order to enlist them. It effectively stunted him from further promotion. He was probably one of the best generals the Confederates had.
Cleburne was only partly right. For most of the following century, non-Southerners were pretty fair about the war and openly respected the South's leaders, including Lee.
4 top Americans of the past. They are Franklin, Washington, Lincoln, and Lee.
The South erected statues and monuments to its heroes. Several were erected inside the United States Capitol.
Many of these statues, though, let's distinguish between ones that were built in the years after the war to honor these men and ones that were deliberately constructed during Jim Crow and during segregation. And they made no secret of the fact of why they were constructing them to reinforce white supremacy in the South.
Even abroad, people respected the dignity, bravery, and brilliance of Robert E. Lee. Winston Churchill described Lee as one of the noblest Americans who ever lived and one of the greatest captains known to the annals of war. It was almost exactly 1 century after the war, in the 1960s, when things took a turn. But even then, it wasn't immediate. In 1977, the Southern rock band Lynyrd Skynyrd performed in Oakland, California with the Confederate battle flag as their backdrop. In 1988, Hank Williams Jr. released a top 10 hit called If the South Would Have Won. But during the woke upheavals of the last decade, the story really changed, and the statues and flags started coming down. Even conservatives in the South had turned on Southern heritage.
It's time to move the flag from the Capitol grounds.
Never should have been there. The Confederate flag, battle flag of any of the armies, any of the Confederate flags should not be flying on government property. Put it in museums. Have it on display to represent those armies when you're talking about the war, fine. But it's a flag that represents a rebellion against the United States government.
Yeah, and a fucking racist rebellion.
150 years after the end of the Civil War, the time has come.
The retreat opened the floodgates for anti-American radicals who literally desecrated the grave of Robert E. Lee's horse, melted his statues, and slandered his reputation.
Listen, let's not
slandered his reputation.
Equate being opposed to honoring the Confederacy with being anti-American. Those are two different things. Is there overlap? Are there people who are very hostile toward the United States who also happen to be pro-Confederacy? Absolutely, but let's not assume one is the same as the other.
Confederacy, the American Civil War, it was an act of rebellion. It was an
Yes.
act of treason at the time.
Yes,
the current
it was.
understanding of the Civil War, as it's taught in Hollywood and schools and everywhere else.
I mean, that is just an objective fact. So is the fact that the formation of the United States in 1776, that was an act of treason and an act of rebellion. I don't know why that should be a controversial opinion to hold.
Cartoon caricature.
Robert E. Lee represents to me.
The last 10 years have been a master class in historical malpractice, so jaw-droppingly stupid that, honestly, most sane people would just change the channel and call it a day.
I'm sane.
But here we are.
I think.
Obligated to tell the truth, so here it goes. The Civil War is not nearly as black and white as the schoolmarms wish it were.
That's true.
It was one of the most complicated events in American history.
I'll pause right there and just say he's absolutely right. It is very complicated. The one thing I will caution against, and I'm not even assuming he's going to do that, but we need to be very careful about pulling out one example of something and proof texting, so to speak. In other words, you start with an assumption and then you find proof of that assumption. So, for example, making the argument that all Confederate generals were noble men who hated slavery and just wanted to have a country of their own or defending their home. Yes, that's true for someone like Patrick Cleburne. That's probably true for Robert E. Lee, even though he was a slave owner himself. That doesn't mean it's true across the board. So picking and choosing individual stories to make an argument, hopefully he doesn't do that.
Its heroes, who existed on both sides, were complex, multi-dimensional people.
True.
Over the course of this video, we're going to prove it. This is the real history of the Civil War. Imagine serving as an infantryman in a battle where your enemy outnumbers your side 2-1. And not only that, your enemy is better trained. They're well rested. And to make matters worse, they've caught your regiment and your entire army in a picture. They have a massive number of soldiers behind you and in front of you, perfectly positioned.
Good. Yeah, and imagine they're led by someone who behaves so incompetently that his subordinate generals are losing their minds over the fact that he won't fight. Because that also was true about that battle.
As an infantryman in this scenario, all you could do is follow orders, march where you're told to march, and shoot when you see the enemy. So that's what you do. Then imagine that after a week of the most intense fighting of your life, you realize that your side has somehow emerged victorious. In fact, you've won decisively. You don't remotely understand how it happened.
I would push back a little bit that Chancellorsville was a decisive victory. It was a very winnable battle for the Union, even after the masterful flank attack by Stonewall Jackson. Listen, nobody is denying that Chancellorsville was a moment of brilliance for Robert E. Lee and Stonewall Jackson. But it was also a moment of major failure by Joe Hooker. He got concussed very early on in that battle and was kind of out of it after that, and probably should have stepped aside and passed command on to his next in line, which I think was probably Darius Couch. But he didn't. The Union very much could have won that battle. If Grant or Meade had been in command at Chancellorsville, Lee loses that battle despite the opening brilliance.
You thought it was impossible. Well, that was the experience of a Confederate soldier named Dorastus Myers during the Battle of Chancellorsville, which lasted from April 30th to May 6th, 1863. On May 11th, Myers, who served as a sergeant with the 33rd Virginia Infantry Regiment, wrote a letter to his brother and sister. Quote, "The Lord hath crowned our arms with another glorious victory. I think it was one of the hottest contests of the war. The enemy were strongly entrenched. We fought them on the left at Chancellorsville with 40,000 men against 110,000. I never was under such a fire of grape shell canister and
It was more like 60,000 and 130,000 altogether, but you know, in the aftermath of these battles, the men never knew the numbers. It was all basically what they heard and what they thought.
musketry in my life, though the Lord spared my life. Although the Confederacy lost more than 13,000 soldiers at Chancellorsville, as well as several key officers, including Stonewall Jackson, the battle is widely considered to be the greatest Confederate victory of the Civil War and one of the most impressive military victories of all time.
I will not dispute that. It was, like I said, a moment of brilliance by Lee and Jackson.
The historic victory was the result of the leadership of Robert E. Lee, the commander of the Army of Northern Virginia. It's widely regarded as one of the most brilliant tactical victories in American military history, often called Lee's perfect battle. It's referenced in books like the West Point Atlas of American Wars, and it continues to be studied in military academies today for its demonstration of outmaneuvering larger forces through audacity and tactical ingenuity.
And listen, it could have been viewed as really stupid to divide your army, which Lee did, in the face of being outnumbered 2-1 already. I mean, there's a lot that could have gone wrong. So, but it's true in any battle, right? You need a combination of skill, but also some luck and some incompetence on the other side. And yeah, I'm not going to dispute that Grant enjoyed that as well in Vicksburg, for example. It was a combination of skill, but also some luck and also some real incompetence on the side of the Confederacy. So Lee and Grant both enjoyed that at different times.
In other words, Robert E. Lee was a genius.
No. Winning a brilliant victory, we can't say, in other words, Robert E. Lee was a genius, because we need to take the entire scope of the war. And Lee also displayed, I think, some real deficiencies when it comes to a strategic understanding of the war. There were times that he made choices. Look at what happened 2 months later at Gettysburg. I mean, Gettysburg never should have happened in the first place. He never should have invaded the North. Both of his invasions of the North got turned back. But Pickett's charge, the assault on July 3rd, we call Pickett's charge. It was Longstreet's assault. It was 3 divisions, only one of which was Pickett, and only one of which was actually Longstreet's. But and Longstreet was protesting it the entire time, and Longstreet was absolutely right. So I don't know if I'll go the genius route with Lee, but we can acknowledge that Chancellorsville was brilliant.
So who was this man who, more than 150 years after his death, is still so frequently talked about? Robert E. Lee was born in 1807 into a prominent Virginia family as the son of Revolutionary War hero Henry Light Horse Harry Lee. From a young age, it was obvious that he was a military genius. He graduated second in his class from the United States Military Academy at West Point.
I wouldn't say it was obvious that he was a military genius. It was obvious that he was very disciplined. He finished second in his class. His son would later finish first in his class. And it's because Lee just, like, not only was a great student, but also very disciplined and just didn't get demerits, like hardly ever. So he was always destined to have some kind of a leadership role. He was always seen very highly in that way.
0 demerits over 4 years and was commissioned into the elite U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. For over 2 decades, he served as an exceptional military engineer, overseeing critical infrastructure projects for the federal government. He served in the Mexican-American War, where he performed so well under fire that he was promoted to colonel. After the war, he ran West Point and later commanded cavalry units in Texas.
So he was second in command to Albert Sidney Johnston in a cavalry regiment, and then, of course, later leads the troops that fight John Brown.
A decade later, in 1863, he found himself fighting the very army that he spent 3 decades serving. Many of the officers he commanded and fought against were students at West Point when he ran it.
Yeah.
He needed a victory at Chancellorsville because he needed European support to break the naval blockade. His enemies sought to destroy Lee's army and reunite the country.
And listen, at that point in the war in May of 1863, European recognition was not happening. Lincoln had issued the Emancipation Proclamation. The war was being reframed.
Fucking
not
bitch.
only to preserve the Union,
Die.
but also to once and for all eliminate the cause of the disunion, which was the institution of slavery. And so they're using this war to do both. And European nations are not at this point going to jump in on the side of a confederacy that is defending the institution of slavery.
The odds were in favor of the Union. Lee's men were facing starvation in Fredericksburg, and he had just split his forces up.
I wouldn't say
sending
they were
General
facing starvation yet. This is still, fairly early in the war.
James Longstreet and roughly 20,000 soldiers away to Suffolk to defend Richmond and secure more supplies. As the Union Army converged on Chancellorsville, they had a substantial numerical advantage. Union forces began crossing the Rappahannock River in late April, laying pontoon bridges just south of Fredericksburg. At the same time, another Union column was marching east, crossing the Rapidan River. Roughly 70,000 Union soldiers ultimately converged at the Chancellorsville Crossroads, moving towards Fredericksburg and the rear of the Confederate
He
Army.
died too.
Meanwhile, Hooker left a force in front of Lee at Fredericksburg under General John Sedgwick.
Yep.
It was clear that a massive battle was brewing. On the evening of April 29th, Jedediah Hotchkiss, a topographical engineer on Stonewall Jackson's staff, remarked, tomorrow, death will hold high carnival." Faced with a vastly inferior strategic position, Lee had three options. Option one, he could attack Sedgwick's forces, roughly 40,000 men along with artillery,
Where's the guy that killed
directly
me?
in front of him at the Rappahannock River. But if the fighting lasted too long, the Union could move from the west and destroy the rear of the Confederate Army. Option two, he could retreat and head south to consolidate his forces. This was the safest maneuver, at least in the short term. Option three, he could split his forces and send Jackson's corps to the west while leaving some small divisions at the front line holding Sedgwick at bay.
And all of this counts on your enemy being too timid, not being aggressive, which was a good gamble by Lee in this case because Hooker was not particularly aggressive once the battle started. He was, there are times when there were decent plans, but they were executed poorly. Hooker's plan was a good plan. Burnside's plan at Fredericksburg in December of 1862 was a good plan, but it got bungled in the execution. And that's what happens with Chancellorsville.
At the time, there were 70,000 Union soldiers over 4 corps who had moved into the Virginia wilderness facing east. If Lee divided his army to attack those advancing Union forces in the woods, the main risk was that Sedgwick would advance and crush the small number of troops he left behind. Lee decided to take that risk.
And this is a famous, it looks like it's an engraving of a famous incident that happens where they call it the bivouac, and it's actually marked on the Chancellorsville battlefield because a guy from Jackson's staff went back years later and put markers on key points on the battlefield, including the spot where this happened.
Oh, what a geek.
And this is where they come up with the final plan, and it's the last time that Lee and Jackson will ever see each other.
Ordered Jackson to lead the troops to the west, troops who in the dead of night were unsure of what exactly was going on. William Calder, a soldier in the 2nd North Carolina Infantry, recorded the movement this way: "We had no idea where we were going. A soldier never knows where he's going, nor what he's going to do until the moment for action comes."
And especially with Stonewall Jackson, because Stonewall Jackson was a guy who was known to not tell even his subordinate generals what was going on until they absolutely needed to know. He was very concerned about leaks, about intelligence failures, things like that. And so when Jackson gets mortally wounded, how much did his subordinates know about what they were supposed to be doing at that point?
They have only to trust in their commanders. On we went, through mud and over stumps, stumbling about in the dark, to the great danger of our heads and our shins. All the while, Union generals were congratulating one another. Bands played upbeat songs as soldiers cheered. But by the morning of May 1st, the mood changed. Jackson's army, advancing to the west, ran into Union brigades from the 5th Corps and 12th Corps, catching Hooker off guard. Although the Union maintained a numerical advantage, Hooker ordered his soldiers to pull back. Union generals couldn't believe Hooker's orders. In fact, Major General Henry Slocum, who was in charge of the 12th Corps, called the orders crazy and threatened to shoot the messenger who delivered the news.
See, this is what I'm saying. This was a failure at the top of the chain of command. These subordinates, guys like Hancock and Meade, who commanded the 5th Corps, and Slocum commanding the 12th Corps, Hancock commanded the 2nd Corps, I think. They were just beside themselves because they understood that this was a winnable battle and that they had huge advantages.
But ultimately, the generals obeyed. Hooker was still convinced that he was in the superior strategic position, but Lee was not done yet. Jackson proposed yet another secret flanking maneuver, taking his entire corps.
By the way, the AI images here are terrible because they've got the shoulder bars here, which were worn by Union generals at this point, not Confederates. And Stonewall Jackson would have been a 3-star general, and Lee was a 4-star general at this point.
And leaving behind only 14,000 men. Around 5 a.m. on May 2nd, Lee authorized Jackson to take the entire 2nd Corps, 15 infantry brigades consisting of 30,000 soldiers and more than 100 cannon around the Union's right flank. In the fog of war, Jackson was able to snake around the Union forces undetected.
I wouldn't say undetected. For example, Dan Sickles' 3rd Corps spotted them, and he actually fired on them. But they did detect them. They knew they were moving. They just thought they were retreating. At least that was what Hooker decided. And you have the 11th Corps under Oliver Howard over on the right flank in the air, so to speak. In other words, they hadn't prepared for the possibility of an attack on that side, and their flank was unprotected.
With the help of scouts and locals who mapped out a route in the wooded terrain. In his final dispatch to General Lee, Jackson wrote, "The enemy has made a stand at Chancellor's, which is about 2 miles from Chancellorsville. I hope as soon as practicable to attack. I trust that an ever-kind Providence will bless us with great success. Respectfully, T.J. Jackson."
Yeah, both sides thought that God was on their side.
At 5:30 p.m., horse artillery positioned near the turnpike fired off 2 signal shots, which were followed by bugle calls. Jackson's corps emerged suddenly from the woods. 12,000 soldiers from the Union's 11th Corps were taken completely by surprise. Many of their trenches were facing the south, not the west, where the Confederate surprise attack was coming from. Very quickly, the Union forces were pushed back about 3 miles. But they weren't completely defeated. It was dark, and they were in the woods, which complicated Jackson's efforts to crush them. Jackson decided to push forward anyway and headed north to cut off the Union retreat. In fact, Jackson himself, along with some other officers, rode out ahead of the Confederate line to get a better sense for what the Union Army was doing.
It was raining, it was dark, and they foolishly rode out in front of their own lines at night.
Jackson was wounded by friendly fire and died 8 days later. Jackson's profound final words were documented by the historian Shelby Foote.
And he called the doctor and says, "Dr. McGuire, my wife tells me I'm going to die today. Is that true?" And the doctor said, "Yes, it is." And he said, "Good, very good."
It was a Sunday.
I always wanted to die on a Sunday.
Lee appointed Jeb...
Those were not his last words. His last words were like he was delirious. He was, he had his arm amputated. He survived that okay, but then he got pneumonia. And he was calling out orders. He was talking about different things. And then he got real peaceful and said, "Let us cross over the river and rest under the shade of the trees."
Stewart to replace Jackson, ordering him to press the attack. And as Lee put it, quote, "It is necessary that the glorious victory thus far achieved be prosecuted with the utmost vigor, and the enemy given no time to rally. As soon, therefore, as it is possible, they must be pressed so that we may unite the 2 wings of the army. Endeavor, therefore, to dispossess them of Chancellorsville, which will permit the union of the whole army. I shall myself proceed to join you as soon as I can, make arrangements on this side, but let nothing delay the completion of the plan of driving the enemy from his rear, from his positions. I shall give orders that every effort be made on this side at daybreak to aid in the junction."
I'm just wondering so far. I mean, I know we got a long way to go. We've got 55 minutes left in this video, but it feels I'm trying to figure out, in telling the real history of the Civil War, why we're spending so much time just on Chancellorsville, other than we're highlighting a snapshot of the best possible moment for Lee. But that's what we do, right? You know, if we want people to form an opinion of us, we want to give them our highlights. Here's my highlight reel. You know, if you're trying to get a football scholarship, you don't send the coach of the team you're hoping to get a scholarship from, you don't send them the mistakes that you made. You don't send them, if you're a wide receiver, the moments that you dropped the pass. You send them the brilliant one-armed diving catch you made in the end zone. That's what this is. Chancellorsville is Robert E. Lee's brilliant diving one-armed catch. So if we're making the argument that Robert E. Lee was brilliant and he's the guy, this is absolutely where you want to spend your time, is on something like Chancellorsville.
May 3rd, Stewart led brutal frontal assaults on critical positions, including the high ground of Hazel Grove, with the goal of reuniting the Confederate Army.
And Hazel Grove is where, that's the area where I was talking earlier about Dan Sickles' 3rd Corps.
The attack was immediately effective. In order to prevent another Confederate flanking maneuver, Hooker made the fateful decision to abandon the high ground on Hazel Grove, ordering Sickles to fall back with the rest of the Union forces.
He was out of it, Hooker was.
It was a pivotal blunder, and yet another cautious decision while Lee was pursuing a much more aggressive strategy.
And it's interesting to me that in arguing how brilliant Lee was, I think he's being very fair and also highlighting how incompetent some of these decisions were by Union High Command in this battle. And that's what it takes, as I said earlier. Napoleon wasn't Napoleon simply because he was a brilliant general. He also had luck and success because at times he faced less than stellar opponents. Robert E. Lee and Ulysses S. Grant had the same privilege.
It's important to emphasize how important Hazel Grove was as an artillery platform.
Yes.
As Chris Mikowski writes in that.
Hey, he's quoting Mikowski. Those are my friends, Chris Mikowski and Chris White. I know both those guys. Wonderful guys. They definitely know their stuff. Highly recommend anything that they produce.
70 square mile sea of trees that made up the wilderness, there were few open plots of ground, making the wilderness a terrible place to deploy artillery.
And he's talking about the wilderness. The wilderness, we think of the 1864 battlefield, but it's literally right. I mean, the wilderness and Chancellorsville are next door neighbors to each other. There's just a couple of miles between the two battlefields.
Ground like Hazel Grove was invaluable. Being on higher ground